A few years back, I found myself in a profoundly problematic situation. More specifically, this was around April of 2022. I had just suffered from a 6 month long manic episode, and there were many consequences from that episode. I got expelled by my university. I destroyed relationships with friends as well as family. I lost multiple jobs, one with the Chamber of Commerce, another one at a pizza shop, but nonetheless, I lost multiple jobs. I lost my confidence and my ability to just be myself and have my sanity, which is something that I don't take for granted anymore. But the bottom line is that I was at absolute rock bottom. And in the aftermath of this manic episode, during which I was highly energized, extremely euphoric, I had flight of ideas, I had racing thoughts, I felt a sense of grandiosity, like I had this immense purpose in this world, and that I was going to make a significant difference in this world, and that only I could do it. I had all kinds of delusional beliefs while in that state of mind, in that frame of mind. And after the mania, I had to grapple with everything that had just transpired. I was now in the opposite state. I wasn't thinking and talking fast like a delusional auctioneer. My mind felt broken. It felt like I was at a loss for words at all times. One of my family members described me as lucid during my mania, just to put in perspective as to how rational I sounded. I was so thoroughly convinced in my delusions that I actually came across like I genuinely believed what I was saying to many people, and that's because I did genuinely believe what I was saying, and my actions, my thoughts reflected that. There's so many challenges that arose as a result of this manic episode. I dealt with racing thoughts again, but in a much different manner. Now they were depressive racing thoughts. They weren't racing thoughts of confidence or productivity. They were racing thoughts of despair, racing thoughts of shame, racing thoughts of guilt. I experienced lots of fear, doubt, and shame. I had a lot of uncertainty about my future as a result of that episode. And so I talk about this, I give a quick summary just to put you in my shoes as to where I was at this moment in my life. I thought that I would never work again. I thought that I would never go back to school after being expelled. I thought I would never find any socialization again. And the two biggest things I had to try and discover on this recovery journey are two very basic human desires, and those are having a sense of purpose or like activity, and having a sense of belonging or socialization. Both of these things were ultimately paramount to my recovery because in my depressive state, when I was in this abyss of despair, I didn't feel like I had any purpose. It felt like I was a ship stranded in the ocean without a crew, without a specific destination, and I was kind of just drifting along, and it wasn't very clear where I was going, where I was going to end up. After all, I had just suffered this major mental health episode, and now I was dealing with a new calamity, a major depressive episode. So it was two subsequent episodes, back to back, two extremes, two opposite extremes. And I gotta say, it's tremendously difficult to navigate. One of the major consequences of me being depressed in the aftermath of my mania is that I put on a ton of weight. If you go back and look at one of my videos, it's where I review my experience working at Dollar Tree. Look at what I look like in that video compared to what I look like now. In that video, I was about 180 pounds. At my highest, I reached a total of 354 pounds. 354 pounds. That is morbidly obese. I'm a short guy. I'm only 5 foot 7 inches. And I reached that extreme in weight. Now I'm currently at 315. I managed to get some of it off. And that's what I want to talk about next. Is that in December 2023, I sort of had an epiphany like moment. And that's because I started to make gradual changes to my routines that eventually added up to become major significant changes. I was socially isolating for the first few years after my manic episode, and that isolation greatly affected my mental health. It resulted in negative self talk, made me lose my confidence to an even greater extent. And one way I dealt with this initially was there's a coffee shop in my town that opens up at 4:30 a.m. And I had so much nervousness and agoraphobia, they call it, fear of people, in the aftermath of my mania because I had destroyed so many relationships. It makes sense. And I was so worried that I would say the wrong thing or look foolish and just make an absolute fool of myself, and I didn't want that to happen. So I devised a plan. I came up with this idea of every morning I'm going to get up at 4, I'm going to walk to this coffee shop, get my coffee at 4:30, and I'm going to have this interaction with the cashier. And that's my interaction for the day, and that's it, and that's enough. Because I just went through a traumatic experience. I don't need to rush things. When an athlete gets injured on the court, on the field, they don't return the next day. It takes time to heal, and the time it takes to heal is different for everyone. In my case, I would say it's probably one of the more extreme cases in terms of how long it took me to recover. But I did small things like that, isolated actions like getting up at 4 a.m. to go grab an iced coffee and then going home, and it made me feel a sense of achievement, which I know sounds absurd. I got up and got myself a coffee, but when you're in a depressed state and you're not high functioning and you're dealing with the debilitating effects of depression, I think those of y'all who have gone through that experience can appreciate and recognize where I'm coming from. You can sympathize with what I'm saying. And so I appreciate you for doing that. If you fall into that category. If not, that's totally cool. But I just wanted to give some perspective and shed some light on the type of feeling I was having. But these small isolated actions added up. And I worked incredibly hard to try and get my expulsion overturned, and those efforts ultimately resulted in resounding failure. Fortunately, I was able to transfer my credits to a different university. In the application, I had to explain what got me expelled, and so I gave a cogent, concise explanation, honest, straightforward explanation of what transpired, and it was good enough. It was sufficient. And this college gave me a second chance. I'm not going to say where I go to school, but I'm very proud to be a part of this institution now. I transferred, and I'm currently taking some summer courses, accelerated summer classes, to build up some momentum as I prepare for the fall semester, where I'll be doing a blend of online and in person. My point is, look how far I've come compared to where I was. In the beginning of this video, I talked about how low I was. I was at an absolute low, rock bottom. But step by step, I restored my confidence. I've been able to recapture momentum in my life and put myself on a positive trajectory, and I think that is critical. I didn't give up. There were times where I was hopeless, but in the long run, in the law of large numbers, I did not surrender my hope entirely. I kept going. I didn't give up. I put in the work. I was diligent and committed to doing the necessary things to turn my life around. And that brings me to the present moment. And that's my experience. That's how I recovered from a 6-month-long manic episode that destroyed my life, which I thought the destructive effects would linger forever. But that hasn't been the case. I've been able to rebound. I've been able to get to a stronger position. I'm more resilient than I've ever been. I just got a few years left of college now, and then I'm planning on going to law school, which I could talk about in more detail in another video if anybody is interested. But for anybody out there who is struggling, I want you to know, if you're feeling alienated, that you are not alone, that you matter, you have a purpose in this world, you stand to make a difference in this world. So never surrender hope. Thank you. I love each and every one of you. Love, trite, love, trite, love, light, and tranquility to all. I butchered my own motto here, but that's it, y'all. Take care. Peace.